Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the I Am Transformed show, where we interview real people with real life transformations. If your own fears and insecurities are hindering you from pursuing your dreams, guess what? The wait is over. When you can change your mindset, you can change your life. Go after the life that you desire and deserve. I am your host, Dr. Veronica Outlaw, and I am here to help you proclaim, I am transformed. Today, we have a very special guest, my dear friend, my dear sister in Christ. She's a Wakisha Greene. She's a Christian, a mother, and a grandmother, and she has a story that you do not want to miss today. This beauty has a background in biblical studies, business management, medical administration, and she's an ordained minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And not only that, she's a certified life and empowerment coach. Her perseverance and her resilience through much suffering and pain and loss would truly inspire you. She's had issues with her mother. She's been held at gunpoint. She overcame divorce, and she lost her son Jermie to a suicide October 27th of 2019. And while this conversation is going to be difficult to have, Wakisha attests that she is stronger than she's ever been, and her mission is to help people go from peace to a place of powerful, and I mean powerful praise. She wants you to be able to rejoice and thank God for keeping you through any of your trials and tribulations. With God, Wakisha has been able to live a life free of pain, and she wants to share that journey with you. So without further ado, I bring to the front Miss Wakisha Greene.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, my dear.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm honored that you accepted the invite. I know it was might have been a hard pill to swallow at first, but we're here and it's gonna happen.
Amen. That's right.
So we've got so much to talk about today. It's so power packed that I don't want to miss anything, and I don't want to keep you on here to midnight because I can talk to you to midnight. But Wakisha, before we go any further, tell us about Wakisha Greene. Who is Wakisha?
Well, first and foremost, once again, I have told you privately, but I'm telling you publicly, thank you so much for this opportunity to share and to help bring transformation to people's lives. And who is Wakisha? First and foremost, I am a child of the Most High God. I love the Lord. I am a mother. I'm a grandmother. I have, so much, background as far as education. I'm a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I love who's Wakisha. I love my family. I love spending quality time with my daughter, my grandbaby, my family. And I'm on a mission to help as many people as I possibly can to be free, to go from a place of pain to a place of powerful praise, to be able to rejoice even through the midst of whatever they're going through. So that is Wakisha Greene.
Well, I'm so happy to know you, Miss Greene.
Thank you.
Wakisha, during our pre-call, you had me in tears, so I'm going to try not to cry today. I believe God is preparing you for another dimension because of your faithfulness, because of your heart to help people, even through your pain, and because you made the decision to always keep him first. I believe he's taking you to another dimension. Now, your amazing testimonies from pain to powerful praise is simply the work of the Lord in your life. What you're going to share today would have taken the average person out, but your strength in God is proof positive why we need him in our lives. So I'm hoping that the message that goes across today is simply that we need God in our lives no matter what we're going through. So one of the things I want to talk about is you shared a little bit with me about you and your mother's relationship. So what you can and what you will, tell us the story with your mom.
Well, I absolutely adore my mother. I will tell you that from the beginning, it was a little rough, because growing up, My mother suffered from drug abuse. And so I had to step up and be mature and be the adult way before my time. And so I took, had to pretty much help raise my brother and my little sister. And so it was at the point where sometimes people thought my little sister was my baby. And um, me and my mother's relationship was, it was really good. In spite of her having the addiction, it was really good. But we kind of butt heads, because mom did things a little different. And of course, growing up, sometimes you think you know best. But then I think I was just really kind of tired of adulting at a very young age. And so I didn't have a choice but to, responsibility. And so just a little story. Me and my mother, we actually fell out. I stopped talking to my mom for about a year. And reason being is because I had just had my son and I'm still in school. I was still in high school and I had my son. And so I went home and yeah, be with me, Father. So I went home and I was looking for my mom and my son. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming home. I'm excited, ready to spend time with my baby. And just a little backdrop, I got pregnant pretty young. I had my son at 17 years old. So I was really young. And so when I got home, I was looking for my baby. And it wasn't, to me, being a parent, it wasn't hard because I had already stepped into that role of being a mother without, before my son, I had already had to take care of my brother and my little sister. And so when I came home that day, I couldn't find them, my mom or my baby. And Jermie was fairly young. I think he was just a few months old. And so I went searched the neighborhood and everywhere looking for my baby boy, and my mom couldn't find him. Now I know that, my mom had, she suffered with addiction. So I was like, okay, I'm searching for them to see where they're at. Searched for a couple of hours, couldn't find them. Now at this point, I'm getting frantic because I'm like, what's going on? I don't know where my mom is. I don't know where my son is at. So literally I went around the corner and I found her at a house, and it was a crack house. And so I found my mother and my son there. When I tell you that broke me, it broke me and it ruined our relationship. So from that point on, I grabbed my son and I left my mom there. I said, how could you? How could you have my baby here in this? And I'm sorry, apologizing. But I took him and I went back to the house. And my brother wasn't there. So my little brother was across the street. So I went to the house. I packed up all my things that I had. I packed up Jeremy's things. And then I went across the street and told my brother, here's the key, baby. I love you, but I gotta go. So that was the day that I actually left. I was 17 years old and I left my mom's home, because I said enough is enough. We had already endured and been through so many things. And my brother was like, no, 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 sis, no, don't leave me. Don't leave me. Please don't leave me. And I said, you're not mine. I can't take you with me, but I gotta go. And so from that point on, I had called my dad and then my cousin. I stayed with one of my cousins. And then my dad, my mom called me in as a runaway. And so my dad called her and he said, you need to call that off because that she's been having many problems with you and she's ready to go. And then this is the straw that broke the camel's back, as they, that saying that we would say. And so I left and I literally did not talk to my mom for a whole year. Now, did it hurt me? Absolutely. But I was so angry with her that she would put him in harm's way like that. And so we weren't good. And so God just moved in my spirit because I've born, raised in the church. My great grandmother truly left me the inheritance of Jesus. She really did. And so I always had that foundation on the inside of me. And it took me some time, but I reached out to my mom and I said, I love you and I miss you and I forgive you. And so from that point on, from that point on, me and my mom have been perfect. It's like we switched roles. I'm the daughter and she's my mom. So Just that's a little bit of history with me and my mom, and that very first initial pain, that trauma, it scared me so much for me to think that I would have lost my son, because who knows what would have happened. So that's a little story, a little backdrop of me and my mom. But we're perfect today. I absolutely adore my mother. I love her, and I forgave her.
Wow. Well, you just answered all of my questions I had to ask to follow up with that. Wondering what happened to the relationship with you and your mom, whether or not you all ever got to a place where you could come back together and love on each other. And ultimately, what we'll be talking about in this show is forgiveness and the power of forgiveness. Um, I can't imagine, but what would you say was the contributing factor for you even to be willing to forgive her?
I needed my mom. I
Mm,
did. My mom. I was raised in a single parent home, so it was me and my mom. My dad would come around. Christmas he would pop up here and there. And so it was really my mom. And regardless to what I had to endure, what responsibilities I had to take on, that's still my mom. That is my mother, and I needed her, and I knew she needed me, because I was hearing people were saying, "Your mom is looking for you, and she needs you." And I said, "I will call her." And so that's what pretty much led me, is because we need one another. You only get one mama.
right. Do you remember how old your brother was at the time when you left?
Ooh, how old was my brother? I was 17. My brother's a few years younger than me, so I would probably like 14, 13, 14 years old.
Okay. How did you feel leaving him after you had cared for him for so many years and you had to leave him? How did you feel about that?
It broke me, because I,
Mm,
I I I know I didn't want to leave, because I knew I was like mama to my brother and my little sister, but I knew that if I didn't go, that things would not be good. I just knew that. And I was hurt, and it really, it broke me. It broke me to leave. That's my baby. It broke me to leave him, but I had to go.
mm. Tell us about the incident with your son's dad where you were held at gunpoint. Share that story with us.
Okay. Um, that was that was with my son's dad. And with him, how that happened was, they used to watch my son when I used to go to work. I used to work pretty late, and I would get off at like midnight every night. So I worked and I went to school. So I finished school and I worked, along with me having my son. And so they would keep an eye on my son while I worked. So one evening, I came this is right before I went to work. I came to the house to bring Jermie to Big Jermie. They share the same name. And so I said, okay, I'll see y'all later. I got to go. And I felt something was going on. I just felt something was going on with him. He was off, and I said, I can't pinpoint what's going on, but he's off. And I said, something's wrong, but I got to get to work. So I left him there, left my baby there. His mom was there, and his two sisters were there as well. So I knew he was in good hands. I didn't feel that he was in harm's way. And so I worked, got off from work, and came to their house. And I said, okay, I'm coming. I'm here for Jermie. And this was like 12:30 at night. And he came out of the house and he was like, "You're not going nowhere." And I'm like, "Ooh, hold up." I'm not going anywhere. What's going on with you? Take your in the house right now. And I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And I'm like, Jermie, just give me Jermie, and I can go home, because I had a curfew. My curfew was 2 o'clock, because at that point I stayed with my dad, and Daddy expected me to be home by 2. And so I said, Daddy's gonna be waiting on me. I need to go. Let me get Jermie and let me go. And he was like, no, go in the house so I can talk to you. So I go in the house, and he said, this is what he did. He took my keys. He threw my keys. I remember it like it was yesterday. Threw my keys. The keys went all over the place. So I couldn't find, I didn't know what key was what. I was sitting there on the couch. I'm like, really? What are you doing? And then his sister came out of the room because he said, I got something for you. I got something for you. And I said, what is that? His sister came out of the room and she said, you need to go. Go out the back door. Go. Now, at this point, I don't have no keys, no nothing. So I go out the back door and I just run. I'm running because, at the time we didn't have cell phones. I had a pager. So I knew my dad was going to be looking for me. I'm like, what in the, I need to get to a phone. I need to get to a phone so I can get in touch with my dad. So he knows that I'm not in a good place. Jermie's trying to call, do something. He's not good right now. I don't know what it is, but he's not good. And I'm running, literally running for my life. I turn around and look, and I saw him chasing after me. And immediately I dropped to my knees. It was like all my strength, everything on the inside of me was, I lost everything. My power, my strength, my endurance, everything. I didn't have it because I just gave up. And so I fell to my knees and he came up behind me, started hitting me in my head. He said, I told you to take your to the house and this and this and that. So we get to the house. I turn around and I'm like, Keisha, just go back to this house. I don't know what is going on with him. Because this is not how Jermie normally acts. Something's wrong. And so just go to the house. So I go back to the house and then I see him pull a sawed-off shotgun from the side of the house. And I said, oh my gosh. Immediately I began to pray. And I said, Father, please help me. I knew who to call on. I said, Father, please help me. Help me. I don't know what's going on. Am I going to die today? Is this really happening? So I went back in the house and I'm like, Jermie, please just let me go. Give me my son. Give me my son so I can go. He was like, no, you get up and go to the room right now. And so I sat there. It was like I was numb. I couldn't move. I couldn't do nothing. And I said, will you please just give me my baby so I can go home? I said, I need to go. No, go to the room right now. You think I'm playing with your, and he cursing me out. And I said, girl, get up and go to the room before he do something that really to harm you. So I went into his room and he said, he got very jealous. And so he didn't like me to have friends or anything. And so he started throwing up. Yeah, if I go find your friends and, F them, do whatever. He was just really nasty. And so he literally pointed that gun to my head and he said, I should take your life right now. I should kill you right now. And I put my head down and I said, Father, please. And the only thing that I could see was my son. I could see him in my mind. And I said, please help me, Father. If you get me out of this, I will not look back. I will not look back. I will go far away from here to protect me and my son. And so time went on. He still wouldn't allow me to go nowhere. And he said, as a matter of fact, here, he handed me the gun and he said, you better kill me before I kill you. Do you know, I grabbed that gun and I was this close to taking his life. And I said, he's done. You got one time to even think you're going to harm me. You got one time. And I held that gun to him and God said, no. I seen visions. I would spend the rest of my life in prison. What about my son? So I dropped the gun down on the floor. He still wouldn't allow me to leave. He laid down on the bed. Will you lay down? Just lay down. Lay down. And I'm just crying. I'm crying. I'm hurting. I'm terrified for my life. My son had no idea. They had no idea what was going on. And they were in the other room. Nobody came out to help me at all. They did not come out to help me. His sisters and his mom didn't come out to help me at all. And they knew that he was trying to harm me. And they didn't come out and help me at all. And so they had Jermie in the other room. And he literally was like, oh, what are you doing? Lay down, just lay down. And he wanted me to lay down. I said, Jermie, I said, you know, daddy's waiting on me. He's looking for me. He probably, and then so my dad started texting me. And you know, on the pager, what have you, he paged me. And I'm like, daddy's looking for me. I have got to go. So I had to hold it together, even though I was terrified. I was crying, but I had to hold it together so that I can get out of there. So in my mind, I'm planning an escape. And I said, how am I going to get out of here? How am I going to get out of here? I need my son, and then I need to go. So he still didn't let me leave. It was the next morning when he let me leave, and he wanted me to lay down with him. Will you lay down? So I laid down next to him, and he fell asleep. And then I was just laying there scared, terrified. Now mind you, I'm young, 17 years old, terrified. And I said, Father, please let me go. Release me. Get me out of this. Get me out of this. Please get me out of this. And so that morning he woke up and I said, Daddy's he's paging me. I need to go call him. So he allowed me to go down. So I left out and walked down to the payphone. And I called my daddy and I said, Daddy, I said, I'm okay. I said, Daddy, and things wasn't good for me. He said, well, at least you wasn't in jail. I hear from you. Hey, I know you okay. I know nothing happened to you. I said, no, Daddy. I was in a bad place last night, but I'm okay. I said, but I'm going to find a way to get home. But Jermie held me. He held me. And at that point, I didn't tell my dad that he held a gun to my head. I didn't, because I knew that I would do something to my father. And so when I got back to the house, I said, yeah, Jermie, I need to go. Daddy's really needs me. So let me get, if you'll help me get my keys and get Jermie. And at that time, whatever was going on, he was over it. Okay. And so, thank you, Lord. But I got my baby and I got out of there and I got my keys and everything. I stopped by my mom's and I said, Mama, and I explained to her what had happened to me. And she said, baby, you've got to go. You got to go. I said, and do you know the scariest part for me is that somebody was getting ready to die and it wasn't going to be me. It wasn't going to be me because I was going to do everything that I possibly could to take him out. She said, baby, you got to go. So I left from my mom's house and went to my dad's. And I told, I went home and I told Daddy, I said, Daddy, I really need to talk to you. So I sat my dad down and I talked to him. And I said, Daddy, I said, Jermie held a gun to my head last night. He almost took my life. And I explained everything that happened. And he was like, what? My dad took off out the door and he immediately went searching for him. He was gone. In the process of my daddy, I said, Daddy, no. And I'm at the door. Daddy gone. And I said, Daddy, please don't go. I said, but I got to go. I already called my aunts in Colorado, my uncle. They're on the way. They're coming to get me. I'm gone. And so he said, no, baby, no, I don't want you to go. So he left. And in the midst of my dad being gone, I packed my car, everything that I had. I packed my car, packed my baby, and we were ready. And I was sitting in my car waiting on my dad to come back. And I said, Daddy, I got to go because somebody's going to die. Just honest, somebody's going to, and it's not going to be me. It's not, I promise you it's not. I said, God got me out of a bad situation last night. I got to go. So I called my aunts in Colorado and my uncle, and they came for me. They drove from Colorado and I got a hotel. They got a hotel for me. We stayed overnight in the hotel. And then that next morning we were gone. And that was in 1995. I fled. I ran for my life. And I found out because my mom and my brother and them were still there. And my mom, she would call me and she's like, Keisha, he's looking for you. He's looking for you. And I'm in Colorado, terrified, looking over my shoulder because I was thinking that he was going to find me. Eventually, he would find me. I didn't tell nobody but my mom and my dad that I was leaving. And so they came, my family came from Colorado to get me, and then we came to Colorado. And that's what happened with that.
How long were the two of you dating?
Shoot, probably about 2 years. I want to say about 2 years.
And there were no signs of
No,
abuse
not at
before
all.
that night?
I mean, he was very, I mean, sweet. He had changed because he had got in the streets and he was gang banging and doing all that. So I knew that he had changed, but he was still Jermie to me. You know what I'm saying? So he write poetry. I mean, wrote me love letters. I mean, everything. So something he just flipped. And yeah, and he was so different. So yeah, in that time, and we were actually engaged to be married. Yeah, and so that's why I was so confused because I had no idea what was going on.
Did you ever find out what
Yeah.
happened in that moment?
They call it wet. So I guess they dip their blunts in embalming fluid. So it do something to them. It triggers their mind to take them to a whole nother place. And I found out that some years later, what would happen.
Wow. How were you able to just pick up and leave?
It was
And
hard.
the reason why I ask that is because women who are in domestic abuse situations, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, and or whether they have kids or not, sometimes they're not haven't been able to take care of themselves because that person was their caregiver. That person had the money, took care of the bills. If they gave them an allowance, so to speak, and then when it's time to leave, they feel like they can't leave because that person was their sole support. So it sounds like you either had family who supported you and or you were able to do that on your own. So do you think that also contributed to you being able to leave when you needed to?
Absolutely. Because my what the situation that I was in, I absolutely have always had the support of my family. That always. And my dad, I stayed with him, and his only expectation for me to stay with him was to give him money to put back in my savings account so that I can save. I'm working because he gave me a choice. Okay, baby, either you can go to school or you can work. I said, no, no, no. I need to do both. I have a son that I need to take care of. And so I had some savings. And so it was tough for me emotionally, but I was okay to take care of my expenses to get us to Colorado.
And so from the time you left to the time you found out what happened, what kind of communications did y'all have in between?
Zero.
Zero.
I did not. And I would go to Wichita. That's where I'm from, Wichita, Kansas originally, but I would go in every now and then to see my mom and see my dad. And when I told them I was coming, I said, do not tell anybody that I'm coming. And they would not. I would be in two places, at my mom's house and at my dad's, and I'll be only there for maybe 2 days and then I'm gone. And so I had zero communication with him, period. And then let me take that back because I was living in Colorado, and then some years had passed, and I was already um, with my husband. At that point, I was already married. No, no, before we got married, right before we got married, and I had went back to Wichita, and they told me that Jeremy was looking for me, and he really wanted to see his son, and this and this and that. So me and my cousin, she's been with me through everything, and so I said, cousin, I said, don't you want to go to Kansas with me? And so we went, and I said, I'm gonna allow Jeremy to see little Jeremy. And she was like, are you sure? Some time had passed, but I said, yeah. And I told, my ex-husband at the time, we weren't married yet, but I told him, I said, I'm gonna let him see him. And so went to Kansas. Worst decision I ever made is to try to allow him to see his son. Trying to do the right thing, and I went to his house. Everything was okay for a minute. He took Jeremy to the back, Do you know he went out the window with my son?
Oh,
He
wow.
left out the window with my son. I was there for about a week trying to get my son back. I was pregnant at the time. I'm pregnant with my daughter, and so he took my son, and I had no idea where he went. And when I tell you, I was on a rampage. I was on a rampage. I had this pole, and I said, "Some look, no." Before I leave, I called my job in Colorado. I said, "I will not be back until I get my son. His dad has taken him. He's kidnapped him, and I have no idea where he's at." So I called my ex-husband, and I said, "He took him. He took him." And he was like, "Oh, I know you were trying to do the right thing, but I'm coming." So he told this when he was active duty military, I'm leave. I'm gone. My family needs me. So he came to Kansas, and we literally searched and searched. And I showed up to his family's house. I said, "Where is my son? Where is my son?" And my ex-husband was trying to calm me down. My cousin, she's still there with me, right there with me. She's like, "Keish, calm down. Please calm down because you're pregnant. We're going to get Jermie. We're going to get him. We're going to get him." I said, "Oh, I know we're going to get him. God is going to bring me my son back. I don't know." And so I went to old friend's house looking for him. I don't know where he's at. I don't know. And they knew where he was at. Every last one of them that had involvement knew exactly where he took my son. So we were there for about a week. And then finally I had to go to the courthouse, prove that I had sole custody of my son, get all the paperwork and everything. And then finally they gave him 48 hours to return my son and so we met. They called me and they said, "We got him. We got him. So meet us at the police station." And then I got my son, and we were gone. We were gone. But then I got Jeremy. He's like, "Mama, you left me. I mean, had on clothes, pants cut up, everything." And I said, "No, baby." And it broke me. I said, "Mama didn't leave you. Mama's been right here. I have been right here waiting for you to come. I didn't go anywhere because I love you." And so he thought that I had left him because that's what they were telling him. "Yeah, your mama left. She left you with me." No, no, no. I would never do that. And Jeremy wasn't even, shoot, how old was Jeremy at the time? He was young. He was 2. He was like 2 years old when that happened. And so I got my baby and we came back to Colorado.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless. So was Jeremy taken care of? Even through all of that, was he taken care of?
Yeah, they took care of it. I think it was his mom and his sisters. They took
Okay.
care of him. Yeah,
So that probably was a tactic to get back at you.
for
You think?
taking him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So whatever happened to him in that situation?
We left and Jeremy did he never, and of course, the older Jeremy got, I explained to him. I said, "Baby," I said, he would ask, "Mom, why is my daddy not around? At this point, I'm already married." And he was like, "Well, I want to see my brother, meet my brother. I know I got a brother." I said, "You absolutely do." Now, I didn't withhold nothing from Jeremy. I was always very honest, but I didn't go into the deep with my son. I didn't, because I told him, I said, "Son, I left. I took you and I ran because your daddy tried to kill me. So I ran so I could save me and I can save you." Now, when we got to Colorado, my son, Jeremy, wasn't even 1 yet, and he knew how to hit up every single gang sign. Yes, not even 1, and he's gang signs because that's what his dad was into. So he picked it up. And I explained to Jeremy, I said, "I have spent all my life trying to protect you, from that." And Jeremy was 16 years old. And so you remember they used to have MySpace?
Mm-hmm.
So Jeremy was on MySpace and has a little account and everything. And he said, "Mom," now me and my kids' relationships are so open. We talk about everything. And he's like, "Mom, somebody messaged me and said that they're my sister. We share the same dad." Immediately my heart dropped because all these years I had kept him away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, sister, I said, he don't have no sister. And I said, Jermie, that's your dad. Because the verbiage and the things that he was saying, I said, that's your dad. That's not no sister. Excuse me. And so, he kept communicating with him. And I said, keep talking to him so I can feel what he's saying and what's going on. And sure enough, he said, no, this is not your sister. Eventually, he said, no, this is not your sister. This is your pops.
Wow.
16 years old. And that's when it changed the whole course of my son's life.
How so?
Because he was angry because he wanted to see his dad because he didn't know. He yearned for his daddy and his brother. And so when he found him, he's talking all this good stuff, And so Jeremy's like, man, I finally get an opportunity to meet my daddy. And I said, son, baby, no. And I refused. And he was angry with me. Mom, why won't you let me see my dad? I said, son, no, because I have the spirit of God on the inside of me, baby, and it is not going to be good. It's not. I know it's not going to be good. Mom, I want to see. So it took me some time. And Jermie literally started lashing out. He was so angry with me. And you're just trying to keep me from my dad and my brother. And then, I went through it with my baby, with Jermie. And I talked to my husband. I said, maybe I should let him go. Maybe I should let him go. I don't want him to hate me because all I've ever tried to do was protect him. And he said, let him go so he can see. So he went, I took him down there to Kansas, and Jermie was 16. And so we met at one of our, auntie's house, those aunties that are not really your aunties, but you grew up with them and they will hand it to you. So that was so we met at one of my auntie's houses, and they lived across the street. So I hadn't seen him in years. And so he walked across the street, and him and Jermie, so he hugged, embraced Jermie, and they embraced one another. And that was the hardest thing for me, but I knew I needed to do that for my son. I did. And so they began to talk and all that. So he visited with him for a little while. I actually left him there so he can visit with them and have that time. And so and I left, and I was just like, I told my husband, my ex-husband at the time, I said, I am so terrified. I am so terrified because I know Jermie's 16 and I know he can hold his own because that's how I raised him, how we raised him. I said, but I on the inside, I don't feel good about this. And so I left him for a few hours, and then I went back to get him. Then we, of course, after the visit, we came back to Colorado, and then time had went past. They were communicating with one another and all of that. And so Jermie felt better because he finally got an opportunity to meet his dad and his brother. And so time had went by, and so one summer I allowed him to go to be with his dad, and he stayed for a whole month. And so in that month, he was there with them, and he got an opportunity to see how they, how they were and all of that. Now they were fine, they were okay, but then Big Jermie and Little Jermie started butting heads because Little Jermie is very strong-willed. He knew who he was, and so one conversation Little Jermie told me, he said, Mom, he told me that you're spoiled, and you're on your mama's, and he said, my mother raised me to be a man. Excuse me. My mother raised me to be a man and to love, but so don't you ever talk about my mom. So they butt heads, and he called me. He said, Mom, I'm ready to come home. I said, are you sure, son? You ready? I'm ready to come home. I said, let me tell you something. Before you do come home, let me set some expectations, some boundaries. You will not, as long as you're under my roof, you will respect me. I'm your mother. I said, you will not come home with that foolishness. I said, I hope you got out of your system what you needed. I said, but you are absolutely ready. You know, you can always come home, baby. I will never turn you away. So he came home, and he was fine. I no longer had any more problems out of my son.
And I commend you for that, because those of us who've had problems with the child's father, is one thing to want to do the right thing, but also when we do it, it needs to be age appropriate. The babies can't talk or defend themselves, but as they get older, we have to allow some wiggle room to let them make their own decisions. And so I know it was hard, because while you're talking, I'm thinking through the situation that happened with me. It's awful. It's hard. But I commend you for your courage for letting that happen. I know you probably didn't get a wink of sleep, but it was what was needed for your son at that time.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So fast forward, have you gotten to a place of forgiveness with Big Jermie?
Absolutely. I had it took me some time, but yeah, even shortly after they had connected when Jeremy was 16, I said, you know what, Father, I got to get to a place where I can forgive this man for everything that he has done, um, for the sake of me and for my son. And so I did. I prayed, and I didn't tell anybody, but I told God. I said, I forgive him for everything that he's done. And so now I'm going to release my son to you, because ultimately he's your son.
Mm-hmm.
You just entrusted me to raise him right,
Right.
and so that's when I did. I forgave him.
Did you ever have a conversation with him about forgiveness?
I did. We later on he asked Jeremy if he could call me. And then so Jeremy was like, Mom, is it okay if Dad call you, because he wants to talk to you? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So he called, and I talked to him, and he said, I just wanted to apologize.
Wow.
He said, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to spend time to get to know my son. And I said, Jeremy, I forgave you years ago.
Mm.
And that was all. He said, do you need anything from me? I said, I just need you to be a father to my son. That's all I need from you. I got it. Me and my husband, we got it from here. We've been taking care of him. So there's nothing that I need but for you to be what he needs for you to be in his life.
And was he that?
Somewhat.
What?
He was more of a homeboy to Jeremy than he was a father.
Okay. Wow. We're gonna move to the next item on the agenda. So you meet a man, you have this daughter with him, and about, I think you said 3 years later, you two get married. If you would discuss the start and the demise of that relationship.
Yeah, and that was with my ex-husband. And the start was absolutely beautiful. We actually met. I At this time, me and my aunt lived together. We were roommates, and so I would hear this guy. He loud music. You know how they be bumping their music and this and this and that, and so I would hear him coming because he lived literally across the hall from me, and I'm like, somebody is really, because I love music. We are a music family, and so he bumping the music, and I look out the window, and I'm like, hmm. I said, he a nice looking guy too. He in the military. Oh Lord, look at them muscles and everything. So you know, and so I'm like, Keisha, you better stop. You better worry about your son, you and your son, and make sure y'all good. And so pretty much, I would see him in passing, and then I would see him with some lady and a little girl. And I'm like, oh shoot, he got somebody. That's off limits, So I wasn't even worried about him. But eventually, it came a time where it was like a few months had went past, and I'm like, I don't see this, I don't see this lady and this little girl anymore with him. And so he left a note on my car because I had my name on my Cavalier, and so anybody can know you. They know your name, so I had it on my Cavalier, and so he left a little note, and he said, "Hi, Keisha." I remember the note like it was yesterday. He said, "Hi, Keisha. My name is Will. I know we have seen one another in passing." He said, "But if you would, I would like to get to know you. Call me." So he left and I still have that little note to this day. I found it in my things, and I actually just recently told him I still have that note you gave me. And that was, let me see, my baby will be 25. That was 24 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, so he left the note, left the wrong phone number on there. So I called the number, and some guy answered the phone. Oh no, you have the wrong number. Because I was like, shoot, I'm gonna call this number. And so he came to the house the next day, and I'm out the window, and I was like, yeah, thank you for giving me the wrong number. And he's like, huh? What you talking about? So he come up, he's like, no, 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 I didn't give you the wrong number. And so, needless to say, he gave me the right number. We began to talk, and Jermie absolutely loved him. Absolutely. When he would see him, hi, Jermie wasn't even one yet. Hi, And I said, boy, don't be talking to strangers. We don't know him like that. And so, and he would say often, yeah, you put him on me. You put him on me because you. I said, no, 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 that was all Jermie. So that's how it started. And then time had went by. We're dating or what have you. And so he was, I mean, perfect. He did just the small things. He took the time to care. He took care of me and Jermie. We didn't have any cares in the world at all. But from the beginning, there were issues because he was still messing with. I found out later that he was still messing with the little girl that I saw was his daughter. So found out we're starting to date and we're together, and he's still messing with her. She at this point she lives in Denver, and I'm like, whoa, hold up, because at the time I didn't know that he was still messing with her, but I knew because he told me he had a daughter, and they used to live there, and so they're no longer together. She's in Denver, and so I said, okay, that's fine. I said, so take me and Jermie with you when you go to Denver, so we can all visit your daughter. I don't want to go to the lady's house. That's I don't want to do that, but I do want to be a part of your daughter's life. If we're gonna be together, I would absolutely love that.
Right.
And so later on, and this at this point we go, forward, go forward. Me and Will are together. We were engaged for about 3 years. We got married, and I was pregnant with my baby girl. And so me and my cousin, and we had went to the New Edition and Blackstreet concert. Yeah, look, I love music, I love the concerts, and so we went to, and I'm like 8 months pregnant, right, with my daughter, and we get home, and I get a phone call, and it was the ex girlfriend, his daughter's mother, and she was like, "Is this Keisha?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, this is," and she said her name, of course. And she was like, "Are you pregnant?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Are y'all engaged?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "What? Why all the questions?" Now, this is like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I am tired. I just came from a concert, then had a good time. And I'm listening to what? She's like, "Well, he has a son." And I'm like, "What? What?" And I'm like, "No, yeah, ask him about it when he gets back home." So I hung up one from her, and I called him. I said, "Tell me something." I said, "Do you have a son?" "Well, can we talk about this at home when I get home? Can we talk about this?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be waiting." So he got home, and I said, "What is going on?" "Well, I didn't want to tell you, that she was pregnant, and I didn't know how far you and I were going to go and what was going to happen." I'm like, "We live together. We're engaged to be married, and I am pregnant with your child. How do you mean? What do you mean?" You don't know how far we're going to go. So that was number one. And time went past. Went past, and we found out. I think it was 6 years later that he wasn't biologically his. But there were affairs that happened in the marriage, and I left my husband 4 times, and each time I was in a position to where I could take care of my son and my daughter. So because I was raised to be able to take care of me, if anything was to happen, you make sure that you got a job and you're able to transition out. And
Mhm.
so I was able to do that. So I left him because it was affairs that was happening. Had got a lady pregnant with another child while we were married, and very emotionally and mentally abusive. He never laid his hands on me. He never physically abused me, but he tried to isolate me. He told me that all I should need is him and my 2 kids, and that's it. Because I'm a family person. I absolutely love my family, and we get together, and I love that. And so he didn't like that. And so when he said move, when he said jump, I moved and I jumped. You talk about submission. I submitted, and everybody in my family was like, Keisha, excuse me, Keisha. Every time this man say move or jump, you move and jump regardless of what you're doing. And I said, well, that's my husband. I said, I love y'all. We got to go. And so, in that, then we're in the house, and he was we was walking on eggshells because we really didn't know what to expect, because he was always angry. Something was always wrong, you
Right.
know. So that was that part. And so with the affairs and the emotional and mental abuse, the seclusion and all of that. And that's what the why I decided. And I actually knew 5 years prior to me divorcing my husband that I needed to, because God told me to. And so because I had elevated my husband, I had put him on this pedestal, even though I was hurting, even though things weren't right, it was my husband. Because growing up I didn't have stability. And so I was stable. He took care of things, financially. We had no cares in that aspect. But the relationship, we didn't have that.
And I think that was a valuable point that you made, because we kind of touched on this earlier, in how some women stay because of the support, but you had a job, or more. You were able to transition out. You could take care of yourself and your children. But speak to how you got to the place of dealing with the pain, because we always get hurt and we leave. Something happens and we come back. How did you finally release the relationship to say, I'm not going back?
I was at church one day, and whew, praise God, I was at church, and my apostle, she was preaching, and it was on forgiveness. It was on forgiveness, and I'm sitting there, and I said, "Yeah, I forgave him. I sure did." And then I'm a journaler. I write, and I write down everything. She can tell you to this day that's my apostle. But I journal. I write everything down. So I'm writing, and immediately God convicted me, and He said, "You have not forgiven him. You have not forgiven." I said, "Oh yes, I did. I forgave him for everything he did to me." No, no. And so after church, I called, and now I am crying, bawling. I called my ex-husband, and I said, I'm sup, and that sup cry, because God said, release him. And so I said, well, I'm calling, I said, I need you to forgive me. I mean, I forgive you. I said, I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you for everything that you have ever done to me. I forgive you, but I also need you to forgive me. I need you to forgive me, because towards the end of my marriage, oh, Keisha had checked out. I was done. And then I started doing things, stepping out of my character, because I was broken and I was hurt. And then when my ex husband found out, he was broken and he was hurt because he didn't think that I would ever do that. Regardless to what we went through, he never thought that I would, return the favor. But I told him, I said, I asked him for forgiveness and I asked him to forgive me. And so from that day forward, we've been good. We've been the best of friends.
Wow. So, what advice would you give somebody who has gone through abuse, they've gone through infidelity, divorce, and more importantly, releasing that burden of unforgiveness? What advice would you give them?
I would say, it's God says that if we don't forgive, He will not forgive us. He will not. And I tell you, the scripture I held on through everything is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ, which gives me the strength. And so that was my scripture I held on to. And he said, you can do this. You can do this. You release him so that I can show up in his life and I can do what I need to do in his life. And I can also do what I need to do in your life. I didn't pray, Father, change him, change him. He said, no, no, forgive him. And I said, I forgave him. And I know he forgave me. So now you're able. So I would say it is for the other person. Forgiveness is for the other person because it allows us to release them, to allow God to work and move in their lives and in ours as well. So that's my advice. I have released them. Whoever that has wronged you, release them.
Right. Somebody will say that's easier said than done. They're still they're wanting to let go, but the hurt was so devastating to them that they feel like they can't let go. Speak to that person.
Support. I would say get someone that you can really, somebody in the Lord that will come alongside you. I have 3 spiritual mothers. They came alongside me, discipled me, loved on me, and helped me through everything. So I would say grab hold of someone that can help you journey through the pain. And that's what I purpose to do with my life, is to come alongside. That's my ministry, Total Life Transformation Ministries, and Women with Compassion. That's the women. So I know God desires me for me. I minister to men as well. But grab a hold of someone and allow them to disciple you, to come alongside you, to walk through that journey so that you can get to a place, because they should be directing you to the Lord. Because ultimately, that's who will be able to reach you on the inside.
Right.
And then you'll be able, from the inside, transform you to the outside. And that's how you will be able to go through that process.
Right. That's so important that you said that, because just because you have a best friend, or maybe your sister is your ace boom coon, that doesn't mean that that's the person that needs to be mentoring you or coaching you or praying for you. If somebody is signing off to the things that are not right, that's not the person that's going to get you through. It cannot be the person who's in agreement with you stewing
Right.
in that space.
Right.
And it's going to be difficult. It is a process. It's a hard process. It's a needed process. But you're going to need somebody who's going to be, cutthroat honest with you.
Right.
You're not going to like them some days. You're not going to like what they're telling you. You're not going to like what you're hearing, but it's necessary.
Right.
So do not get somebody who's going to sign off the checklist just because they're your friend. They're doing you a disservice, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not going to get the proper help that you need.
That's right. Absolutely.
So glad you said that.
Amen.
So, Wakisha, you've been through the people on the line are probably saying there can't be something else. She's gone through enough. There can't be anything else. So the last thing we're going to talk about is the transition of your son, Jermie, to suicide October 27th of 2019, just over a year ago. Tell us, before you go into that, tell us about Jermie, who he was to you as a person, and then lead into the events of his suicide.
Mm. Not only was Jermie my son, but Jermie was, that was my protector. Anybody that knows Jermie knows that don't mess with his mama. Do not mess with, well, my mom Deuce. My name is Mom Deuce, and my other children, that their friends, they call me Mom Deuce as well, because they know. And so Jermie was such a light. Such a light. Jermie wasn't even only my son. Jermie was my business partner. He was my protector. We prayed together. I would call him, talk about business stuff, and Jermie picked up the gift. This is a gift that Jermie had of music and writing. And so, take it back just a quick second. Me and my two cousins, we had a music group called Silent Rain. And this is when Jermie was a young boy. And so me and my cousins, trying to get our music, we would write and all of that. And so we eventually got to the place where we no longer wanted to do that, because I didn't want to be in that spotlight like that, because I know that that industry could be nasty, and I wanted to protect my children. And so Jermie picked that up. He picked it up. So he learned that he can write. His own music. Jermie had over 500 plus songs that he wrote, produced himself.
Wow.
Heaven. And his nickname for me was Heaven. Heaven on Earth. So that was his music, Heaven on Earth Promotions. And so he spent much time working on his craft. And so, and also just helping and being a light to so many people. So Jermie he didn't really realize how much of an impact he had. Jermie absolutely adored the Lord, loved him, So, and privately, he would go and he would bless somebody. How you doing? What's going on? And I'm learning all of this. I knew that he was doing that, but to the extent I didn't know until he passed who all Jermie had impacted, because I knew he was working. God was using him, and he would speak through his music, his lyrics, and you could always tell where Jermie was at emotionally, because you can hear it in his sound. God gave him a voice, and I told him, son, even if you don't have any music to it, it's spoken word. I said, but what you need to do is you need to write music that's going to impact people and change we don't want it to change their lives. We want it to transform their lives, because change, you can go back.
Right.
Transformation, you cannot go back. So this is the music that you need to write, and kind of bring it back from that, all that cursing and everything in his music. So he would listen to mama. He would, and so eventually he started changing his lyrics. And I told him, I said, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line, you want people to revisit your music and say, oh, that's heaven. Oh, that's heaven. Listen to that sound and listen to his lyrics. Listen to him speak. And he speak about the Lord. He speak about transformation. He speaks about being real. And he always say, keep it 100, not 100, keep it 100. Yeah, and so I would go to his shows and all of that, just, to support him. And he really was gifted, not only because that was my son, but I saw that was a gift that God placed on the inside of him to deliver the word, to speak life into other people, to encourage them to be who God has purposed them to be. And he was like, Mom Deuce, you need to get back in the studio. I said, no, baby, mama don't need to get back in the studio. God don't want to use me in that manner. That's your gift. So that was Jermie. And he left me with 5 children. So I have 5 grandbabies from him, and I have 1 from my daughter. So I have 6 grandbabies, but Jeremy left me with 5. Adored his children. Adored his children. So that was Jeremy.
So how old was Jeremy when this happened? And if you can share, what events led up to him committing suicide?
Jeremy was broken, and he was because through life it was hard for him, and his thing is he didn't want to keep a job because he believed that he was a born entrepreneur and he wanted his own. So he worked on his craft. He worked on, and I said, son, short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Keep a job, keep some employment to take care of you and your family. But when you're done with that job, then you work on your craft.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually when you get to the place where you can release that job, then you do that. But in the meantime, so he made it a little hard for himself, because he wouldn't keep employment. And so it was tough. And then so he made a decision. I had told him like 3 years prior to me leaving and we're moving. And I moved to Georgia July of 2019. And I told him, 3 years up, and I said, son, we're getting ready to move. I'm getting ready to go. And I said, I'll be waiting for you to join us. And so he's like, okay, Mom Deuce, I know it's time to leave Colorado. And so I left, and he had decided to go to Kansas to be with his dad and them because he wanted to, be there. And he said, Mom Deuce, do you think I should go? And I said, let me tell you something, pray about it. I'm always directing my kids to the Lord, always. My children to the Lord. And I said, son, pray about it. And if God gives you a peace that this is a decision that you need to make, then you go for it. But if he does not, don't you move until he say shift. And then you come out here with me.
Mm.
So I think it was like a week had passed. And then he finally made the decision to go ahead and go to Kansas and to be with his dad. And he went to Kansas. And I prayed and I said, Father, reveal to him what's underneath, what's hidden. I need you to reveal to him what's hidden because he's still seeking that love, that attention, that affection from Big Jermie.
Mm.
He's still seeking that. And so I said, reveal to him why he's there. And so he went to Kansas and God began to reveal truth to Jermie. And so he had moved him, his girlfriend, and his 3 children. He had moved them to Wichita with him. And fresh start, he wanted to start over and, he wanted to be there. And him and his dad got into it. And apparently his dad tried to choke him out. They got into it and his dad tried to choke him out and he was angry. Beyond angry. My brother texted me, and at the time I'm in a real estate class, and I'm like, my brother was like, sis, call me, it's Jermie. And I'm like, I'm stepping immediately, and I'm in Georgia at this time. And so I said, what's going on? What's going on, my baby? What's wrong? And he was like, well, apparently Big Jermie tried to choke him out. They got into it, and Jeremie's not happy at all. So I said, tell Jermie he needs to call me. Because my brother asked him, did you call your mom? And let her know, no, I didn't want to worry mom with that. I said, you tell my baby to call me. So he called me, hey, mom, what's you all right? You out of your class? And I said, no, what's going on with you? What happened? And he was telling me what was going on. And his girlfriend literally had to get Big Jermie off of him because he choked him out to the point where he passed out. He was not limber, she said. And she got on him and said, will you get off of him? So Jermie came too. And he said, Mom, I didn't really realize what had happened until I came to. And then they left his house. And that's when rage set in. He said, Mom, I need to do it. I said, do what? He said, I need to take his life because ever since I've been here, I've been learning that he has hurt so many people. Why would God allow something like that to exist and all he does is hurt people? I feel that it's my responsibility to kill him.
Mm.
And I said, no, 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 baby, no. That is not for you. You need to release him to God. You need to release him to God, and you need to get out of there. He was actively pursuing a gun. And he told me, trying to find a gun so I can kill him. No, baby. He said he hurt me. He hurt you. He hurt so many people. I said, get out of there. You allow God to handle that. And so he made the decision to leave and go back to Colorado to be with his kids because he said, Mom Deuce, I really want to be with my kids because the girlfriend had left. And because they had got into it there, she left, went back to Colorado. So he was like, I'm going back, Mom. And I said, okay. He said, but I know this girl is going to be the death of me. And I said, no, 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 no. Don't be speaking that. Don't speak that. He said, because all I want is my kids. All I want is my kids. And I'm leaving this bad situation. And I know I'm going right back into this bad situation because she was very, very manipulative. They got into it. You know, she would always say, always using his children against him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hear these conversations. He would call me sometimes on speakerphone so I can hear what was going on. So I would not be on him for, because when you're wrong, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I told both of them. And I said, if you guys cannot get along, y'all need to be apart. And I would tell them that. And I told Jermie, I said, son, you're going back? He was like, Mom, I just want my kids. I want my kids. So he went back, and nobody in college, my family didn't know that he went back because he didn't want anybody to know he was back. He just really wanted to be with his kids. And so he made it. We were messaging each other. We called each other, and he's like, Mom Deuce, I made it to Colorado, and I'm here with my babies. So time had went past, and we would talk to him. Me and my daughter, we would call him on FaceTime so I could see him. I said, I need to see him because I know everything that he's going through. I need to see him, his spirit. I need to see him. And so she would call him on FaceTime. Hey, son. Hey, Mom Deuce. How you doing? But then when he would say, Mama, I knew that something was going on because when you go from Mom Deuce to Mama, there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. And I said, Mama, what's going on, baby? Talk to me. And then he just started crying. And he said, I am trying my best to do right by everybody. All I want is my kids, Mama. I said, son, and you got them. I said, but if it's not working between y'all two, then separate yourself because it's not good. That's a yoke. And God says that we got to be careful who we yoke ourselves up with.
Amen.
You do, and she's got problems, some things that she's dealing with from how she was raised, and then you got some problems that you're dealing with, and so it's just not healthy. Release yourself from that relationship. Get yourself on solid ground so that y'all can joint custody of your children, so y'all can work together to co-parent your children, but you don't have to be together. I know, Mom Deuce, I know. So he had finally made the decision to remove on. So him and this other young lady was together, and she was, found out she was pregnant. And so he finally made the decision to kind of walk away. But he went over to see his children, and he went over to her house to, the children's mother, went over to her mother's house, and he said, this is what she told me happened. He came to the door and he was knocking on the door. Let me see my babies for the last time. And she's like, what are you talking about? You're not going to see them because you're probably with that, talking about the other girl. And so, that's the kind of relationship they had. It wasn't healthy. And so he was like, just let me see my kids. will you please let me see my kids? And she wouldn't let him see him for a minute. So he turns around and he starts walking off, and she goes chasing after him. I thought you wanted to see your kids. You don't want to see your kids. You're just with that. And it was just it was too much. And so he turned around, he walked back to the house, and she let him see his kids. He kissed him, gave him a hug, he kissed him, and he turned around and he started beating her. He pulled the gun out of his backpack. He started beating her in the head with the gun. So he stopped himself. He walked around their apartment. And then she said, what are you going to do with that gun? What are you doing? So she said they were kind of tussling. What are you going to do with that gun? And he said, either I'm going to jail or I'm going to hell, but I'm finna show you. And he held the gun up to his head and he took his life. And he took his life. And October 27th, it was 10 minutes before 8 o'clock that night, because I was getting ready to get off from work, and I got a phone call, and her sister was calling me. And I said, hold on, baby, I got to call you back on Facebook Messenger, whatever. She was calling me. And I said, I got to call you back. I get off in about 10 minutes. She said, call me. It's an emergency. It's Jermie. And I'm like, whew. So I said, excuse me, y'all. I got to take this phone call because I heard something going on with my baby. I'm all the way in Georgia. I can't get to him fast enough, so I don't know what happened. So I was like, what's going on? Well, Jermie shot himself. I'm sorry I have to deliver this news to you. And I just lost it. I lost it. And I said, what? No. What happened? No. So they was like, Wakisha, go home, go. And so I call, I get in my car and I'm driving. I called my brother and I told him, I said, I need you to go to the hospital. I need you. So I have enough strength on the inside of me to call my brother and say, get to the hospital. Jeremie's there. He shot himself in the head and I need you to go because I can't get there. I need you to go. Okay, sis, well, I didn't even know Jermie was here. And so he drove and they went to the hospital, and I called my ex-husband. And I said, I frantic. And I said, Jermie shot himself. Jermie shot. Oh my gosh. And then I called my daughter because they had went to Florida to go get one of her friends that was going through a rough time. And then they were going to bring her back so she can get on a plane and go to Colorado. And I called my baby girl and I said, Treya, Jermie. And she said, all I kept saying, Mom, she said, Mom, all you kept saying was Jermie. And I said, she's like, what? I said, I got to call you right back. I got to call you right back. Because then the hospital was calling me. And then they was like, Miss Greene, we need you to get down here because your son, and it's not looking good. And so I was like, I'm all the way in Georgia. I am all the way in Georgia. I can't get to him. I can't get to him. Please, Father, please help him. Father, please help my son. I can't get to him. I called my daughter back and she was like, what? So she's all the way in Florida. She's trying to make her way back to me. And then I called my apostle and I'm talking to her, and I was numb. And my brother, when I talked to him, he was like, pull over, sis. You can't be driving. I said, I just got to get home. I got to get home. I just got to get home. And I got home and I'm on the phone with my apostle. And she was there with me. She was there, and I was just crying, and I couldn't think of I'm not there. I'm not there with my baby, and he needs me. I said, Father, will you please spare his life? Please spare his life. Just let me get to him. He has so much more that he didn't even realize that he needed to do here on this earth. No, please don't let him go. Please don't take him away from me. And my apostle, she told me, she was on the phone with me, and I literally couldn't move. I made it home. I couldn't move. She said, all I kept saying was, Father, help me. Father, help me. Father, help me. She said, that's all you kept saying was, Father, help me. And she said, I have never heard a mother, anybody weep for their child, and you wept for your child. Because the doctors had called me back and they told me he didn't make it. And I said, why? How am I supposed to live without my son? My everything. It was like everything was ripped from me. Everything that I had lived for was ripped from me when I found that I lost my son. And I told oh, I just I yeah. And it was yeah. And I did not know. I told the Lord, I said, Father, I know we go through some things, but I did not know that I was going to have to endure this, and I was going to have to journey without my son. I didn't know that I was going to have to journey without my baby, my rock. Of course, my God is my everything, but my son, he protected his mama and he loved his mama, and he was supposed to came out to Georgia with us after he got his stuff straight. He didn't plan to take his life, but in that moment, like the detectives told me, Miss Greene, I don't think your son saw any other way because of the decision that he made prior to him taking his life. Because we didn't believe in suicide. We didn't believe in taking your life. And that's why I said, no, 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 this did not happen. This didn't happen, Father. This didn't happen. And it happened. And so I got many people, they were like, Jeremy didn't plan suicide. I said, I know he didn't plan it. And like I was talking to my apostle, it was a while ago, and she was she was my rock. She was my rock. My ex-husband, they were there. And then I had my family, they were there through everything. My daughter, my baby girl was there. And she said, you can do this. I know it's hard. I don't understand how you feel. I don't understand how you feel. But I know you can do this. And I said, Father, so time went forth, and I came back to Colorado, and I took care of the affairs and everything with that. And I went back to Georgia, and I said, now how do I continue? I was asleep, and God just woke me up, and I said, how do I continue? I know you have a huge assignment on my life, but how do I continue? How do I continue to be a blessing to somebody else? How do I continue to impact many people's lives? How do I continue? And he said, continue. Continue. And I know that I was carrying that cross for somebody else. I carry these crosses, these burdens, these hurts, these pains for somebody else. If he bring you to it, he will bring you through it. And that's what happened with Jermie. And I prayed and I asked God to heal this hole that was on the inside of me. Heal this hole that's on the inside of me so that I can continue. Heal me, Father. Please heal me, because I'm broken. I don't know if I can continue. That's how I felt. I have lost everything. I lost my baby. And he reminded me, you still have Andrea. You still have your grandbabies. And so one morning he woke me up, and I kept praying for healing. I kept praying for wholeness, for God to deliver me from the pain, from the hurt, for this hole that was on the inside of me. And one morning I woke up and he reminded me about the woman with the issue of blood. Because of her faith, she said, if only I can get to Jesus and touch his garment, will I be made whole? And he reminded me of that passage. And he said, woman of God, my child, because of your faith, are you made whole? This day, you will walk in your wholeness, because you now will be able to help somebody go from that place of pain to the place of praise. I got to the place where I was no longer mourning my son, but I was rejoicing because I knew that my baby was no longer in a place of pain. But to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. And He is with my Heavenly Father. And He's sitting at that table. He's dancing and He is rejoicing. And I know He's in the best place. And I said, one day, Father, one day, Son, I will see you again. But Mama got some work to do, because by the touch of his hem, the garment, I touched that hem of his garment, and I've been touching for my whole life. My great grandmother gave me the inheritance of Jesus. So I knew who could heal me. And from that point forward, I said, I am made whole. Now you go out, your hands and feet for the kingdom. You go out and you show others how they too can journey from the place of pain to the place of a powerful praise. That's my story.
Wakisha, people are trying to understand how you are still standing after all you've been through and ultimately the passing of your son. And I think you just touched on that. But what I want to ask is, did you ever question, or do you still question, why am I the one that has to be the messenger for everybody else? Did you ever question, why me?
I didn't. And I never got angry with God. I never blamed God. I didn't, because I know we have choice. God gives us freedom of choice. And I didn't question God. But what I said, because I knew that when I got to the place of my wholeness, I knew that it was for my good, but for His glory. And so what happened to me, what He allowed me or helped me journey through that, so that I can carry that cross for somebody else. I can come alongside and really be a blessing to them and say, He might not do it the same way that He did it for me, but He will do it for you.
How do you stay so strong and faithful after everything you've been through? Because I
Mhm.
know the pain. I know you're a woman of God, but that doesn't excuse us from having pain. We're human, we're in the flesh.
Mhm.
And I know you think about him daily, and I'm
Yes,
pretty sure you shed a tear every time you think about it.
absolutely.
How do you stay so strong and so faithful through everything that you've been through?
I stay in my word. I have to, every single day I have got to get into, I tell people in a minute, I have a direct connection with my Father. I do. And I hold on to my relationship with my Father, my Heavenly Father. And then, too, I have those that love me so much, and they always check on me. My apostle, my PT, I call him PT, my sisters in, Colorado, my sister in, where's she at now, South Carolina. But I have those that's, how you doing? That's the come alongside, But first and foremost is my relationship with my Father. And then I have those that love me. I have always had a close knit family. And even those that are not my blood, that's my family. If I call you my sis, my sissy, in my family, you my family. So that's how I'm able to continue and to be so strong. I had many people ask me, how can I be so strong? You don't have to be so strong. I don't know any other way. My great grandmother was the strongest woman. My grandma Nana was the strongest woman that I know. And she would drag us to church 6 days a week. So I was there. So I had that foundation. But then I had those that came alongside me and helped me. They were there for me. That's why it's so important for you to have godly counsel to pour into you so that you can continue to do what God purposed for you to do and to get through the levels of pain, because each one of us are going to go through pain. We're going to go through something. We're not exempt. Look at Jesus. What did Jesus go through? And then you know what I think about all the time, when he was on the cross and he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Even then. So just a reminder, that's how I was able, that's how I'm able to continue, is because my father, and I sit in the presence of my father every day, every day. And when I feel overwhelmed or, anxious, it says, do not be anxious for nothing. I cast all my cares upon him. I do. I got my secret closet, my secret place. I'm in my closet. I'm praying. I'm praying, and I stay there. That's how I'm able to continue and to be so strong.
There's a quote from, I think it came from our coach, that says, people see you, but they don't hear you. They didn't hear you.
Yeah.
So now the world gets to hear from you, my dear. And what a beautiful sound it is.
Thank you.
How do you feel about releasing to the public now that you have done this?
I feel good because I know it was time. My pastor, my apostle, she told me some years ago, she said, there are things that are unspoken that people need to hear that you have not revealed. And what it will do is it will transform people's lives. And so it makes me feel so good. And yes, our coach, our director in our business, because he did tell me, he said, WG, he said, people can see you, but they just can't hear you. So now it's time for the world to hear me. So I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled. And I'm so grateful for you allowing me to share.
What's next for Wakisha Greene?
To walk in my plan, God's plan and purpose for my life. So, and that is to come alongside and just do what I need to do to help people really transform their lives, and so that I would spend the rest of my days, really helping people. He said, I will make you fishers of men. I'm a fisher of men, to help them get to that place, to help reconcile them back to, first and foremost, our Heavenly Father, and to help them journey through so that they can fulfill the mission, the plan and purpose that God has for them, for their lives as well.
Any last words on anything?
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for, I told you privately, but I tell you publicly as well. And you, Veronica, you actually encouraged me, because when you sent me the invite, I said, "Oh no, 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 no," because what you said was, you have a story, and I would love for you to share your testimony with the world. And I'm like, whew, think about this for a minute before you respond, because you're faithful, and when you tell somebody you're gonna do something, you do it. So don't you respond yet. And I said, immediately went to the Lord, and I said, Father, is it time? He said, it's time. So I'm obedient. And so you encourage me to move forward in what God had already wanted me to do. And so what's next for me is, the same thing, is to really get my podcast going, my show, well, ultimately it's his show, you know, and if you see, you'll see where it said the unlimited her. God gave me that right before I left Georgia. And I said, what is the unlimited her, Father? The unlimited her, the healer, the encourager, and the restorer. So you go out and bless somebody. And he said, you take the limits off of me and watch what I do. That's the unlimited. You are unlimited. I've already put on the inside of you what you need to help transform other people's lives. So that's what's next for me. And my book, From Pain to a Powerful Praise, I will be releasing that in 2021. And it's a workbook, book, and then be an online course as well that I'm working on. So that's what's coming forth.
Wakisha, are you transformed?
I am transformed.
Loud and proud.
Yes, I am transformed. Yes.
Oh my God, sister. You did not consider it robbery to accept my invitation to be interviewed on the I Am Transformed show. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to know you, to do business with you, and to call you a friend. And it was an honor and a pleasure to serve you today.
Thank you.
Wakisha, I thank you for trusting me with your story. I had a little heartburn with making sure I asked the right questions because I didn't want to offend. It was almost like walking on eggshells, but I know the purpose and the plan that God has. And I know that if you go to him with your needs, if you listen, he will answer. So I thank you for trusting me. People like you who've been through the fire and come out smoke free are the reason why I do this show. It fills me with so much joy. I'm so blessed, and other people are being blessed in the process. Whether we ever know who they are or not, that's none of our business. Our business is to do what we've been instructed to do, and do it with the right motives, and do it with love, and do it with a servant heart. So providing you this platform to have your voice heard was an absolute pure blessing. And the selfless way that you serve and you share is an indicator of the type of person that you are and the heart that you have for other people, even while going through your various trials and tribulations, all because of your love of God. Yeah. So Wakisha, I thank you. May God bless you, and may he increase your territory and shower you with every godly desire that your heart can hold.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I pray that someone was blessed. I pray that someone was blessed and they can walk out, and get to that place, go to the other side.
They absolutely will. We've got some comments coming in. I don't see any questions, but this show will be aired on the radio, the I Am Transformed radio. I didn't know this until yesterday, but because Wakisha has been through so many things and she has truly forgiven those who have offended her, I just thought it fitting to be part of the theme that's going out on the radio, which is the power of forgiveness. And I didn't know until the pre-call. I said, you know what? I already have something scheduled for today at 6, and then next Sunday. Let me move it up and put it on January 3rd, Sunday, January 3rd. I didn't know that was her son's birthday.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. January 3rd. Yes.
So I'll be getting this edited for that show. And because the show went long enough, I'm probably going to have 2 episodes out of it. And whatever direction this goes in, of course, you'll know all about it. I want to thank everybody who tuned in and stayed with us during this duration. We went way longer than we normally do, but we can't put a timestamp on God's messages. If he says 30 minutes, it's going to be 30 minutes. If he says 2 hours, then by God, it's going to be 2 hours. Because somebody somewhere needs to hear everything that Wakisha has transparently and honestly and genuinely shared. And your efforts, Wakisha, will not go in vain.
Thank you.
You do not look like what you've been through. And I just thank God for you. I thank him for the connection. Um, I just thank you and I love you.
Thank you.
I commend you for your courage. And I'm going to break down if I don't stop soon.
Thank you, and I
If
love
I
you
don't
too.
stop.
I love you too, sis. I do. I love you so much. Thank you.
Okay, well, this is going to conclude the I Am Transformed show where we had the beautiful Wakisha Greene with us today. Stay tuned for more from her. When I see it, I'm going to share it. So follow her on Facebook, Instagram. She's at Wakisha Greene. She's also at an account, Living Life Out Loud, LLC. Is that right?
That's right.
And what's the third one? There was a third one, right?
Just living life out loud LLC, and then yeah, I am Wakisha G.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Okay. I am Wakisha G. Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, Wakisha, thank you. I love you. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Share this message with all you can. The message has to be heard. It has to go forth. The message that we're sending with the power of forgiveness is you cannot live without it. You do not exist without forgiving others, without even forgiving yourself for any transgressions. It's biblical. If
Right.
you don't forgive, our Father in heaven won't forgive us. That's the bottom line. I didn't say it. Wakisha didn't say it. The word says it. So if you want to live a life of peace and prosperity and abundance, I'm telling you, it's nothing like it.
That's right.
Nothing like it. No matter what you've been through, it's nothing like it.
That's right.
Okay, my dear. If you don't have anything else, we're going to sign off, and you hold tight. In the meantime, for everybody else, this is the I Am Transformed show because I am transformed.
Transformed. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.